Communications and digital technology and social networking have impacted human life radically in the last few decades. Such provided access to massive amounts of information right into our homes and brought enormous communication capacity right into our pockets. Everyone is findable and searchable, which likewise set up a new playing ground for cybercriminals. Cyberbullying, online gaming addiction, excessive use of social media, and the prevalence of cybercrimes perpetrated by adults preying on the vulnerable make the internet unsafe for children and the youth. Our past episodes' guests presented the parent's role and the individual's value system. Join us today as we highlight the key factors in addressing these gaps with our guests here in CyberChat, #CyberCare.
Isang malaya at ligtas na araw mga kababayan. Welcome to CyberChat and be a Cyber Guardian. Join us today here on TV Maria. You can also watch past CyberChat episodes on the Cyber Guardians PH YouTube channel. Today's episode, #CyberCare, will highlight some of the recommendations provided by our past guests on addressing cyberbullying, other forms of cyber threats, such as online gaming addiction, excessive use of social media, and the prevalence of adult predators online, preying on the vulnerable, our children and the youth. We have invited another guest co-host to join us today. She is one of the Cyber Guardians PH core members and also part of CyberChat's creative team. Let us welcome back on CyberChat the ICT Cybersecurity Bureau's Information Technology Officer and Policy Lead, Ms. Jenalyn Macalinaw. Hello, Jen!
A pleasant day to all the viewers of CyberChat. Good day, Kat. I'm glad to be back. For the past several episodes of CyberChat, we have exhaustively discussed cyberbullying, its many forms, and how it has affected not only the victims, but the cyberbullies themselves. And we recognize both need help.
So in order to arrest the spread of cybercrimes or cyberbullying, I would say na ang atake dapat doon ay twofold. One is external and the other one is internal. When you say external, that is the developmental logistics, meaning meron tayong law enforcement, meron tayong legal protection, meron tayong school system that would be protective ng mga bata, diba, na maaaring cyberbully. Kagaya na sinabi ni Father regarding parental chat or teacher-student chat groups and so on. Those are externals. Also inside the home, inside the family, pwedeng magkaroon ng control or moderation of the use of internet and also access. Right. Access dun sa mga pwedeng matempt yung mga bata, right? So external yon, logistics. Internal, that's the curative component. Pag sinabi mong internal, curative yon. And that's where permanent healing comes from. Pag sinabing curative, that's the difficult part. In fact, the most difficult part. Kasi inside the person na yon. And usually that's what we do in therapy, in counseling. But I think generally the school system has a lot to do with this, and also the family system, and also society in general, the values that we have been imparting to our children, our young people, and so on. Doon usually umiikot yung internal nung nagsa-cyberbully. Okay? So para ma-spread yon, para ma-prevent yung spreading of this menace in our society, dapat external at saka internal ang atake. Okay? Otherwise, we would just be scratching the surface and not really going to the roots.
That was Dr. Angelo Subida, a clinical psychotherapist who has an MA in counseling psychology and a double doctorate degree in ministry, major in mental health and counseling and clinical Christian psychotherapy. He will be joining us later.
Online gaming addiction was also featured in two of our episodes, highlighting how the gaming world has deprived online gamers of their reality. Likewise, joining us later is Mr. Ace Deloy, Senior
If you are a
Advocacy
parent,
Officer of
I would
Stairway
say the
Foundation
first and most
Incorporated.
crucial step that you can take as a parent right now is to have that trusting relationship with your child and open up a conversation for you as a parent, to try to understand why do your child enjoy gaming? Because once you share that culture, it's easier to connect to your child, and then your child will open up to you if he or she experiences something inappropriate or abusive online via gaming.
We also took a close look at social media, which has pervaded society. Technology has changed the world as digital devices, tablets, and gadgets have become part of our daily existence. The generation gap continues to widen. So, what does it take to become effective and successful parents in the age of digital technology?
At kami ay natutuwa, CyberChat's good friend and Cyber Guardian's PH partner who missed our last week's episode really found time to join us today. Maraming salamat po for being with us today. PNP's Women and Children Protection Center's Philippine Internet Crimes Against Children Center or PICAC Chief, Police Major Michael Vertudazo.
Si Ma'am Cristina Tablanza, Principal of Benigno Aquino Junior High School, Caloocan City, ay muli din po natin makakasama today for us to better appreciate DepEd's current training programs on internet safety and child online protection. We will start our conversation with our guests when we come back.
Welcome back to CyberChat, Dr. Angelo. Can you please explain further the internal factors? Ano pa ang nakikita nyo sa kasalukuyan, lalo na ngayong pandemic, where everyone is online? Ang mga kulang at maaaring gawin sa pagpapalakas ng value system na ating mga kabataan po.
Basically, when you talk about cyber crimes, although ang nakikita lang natin ay yung kanyang external manifestations, but the reality is it is a more internal phenomenon. No? It's basically an abnormality, a psychological, spiritual abnormality. Pag sinabi kasi yung abnormality from the prefix AB, right? Ab, meaning to say away from. Okay, away from three things: away from others. Okay, second would be away from self. And the third one is away from God. Rehabilitating someone who is committing a cybercrime or cyberbullying, I would say that it's not just a matter of information campaign. It's not just a matter of law enforcement. I think it's not just a matter of external scare campaign or maybe just education, or even whether digitally or non-digitally. Okay, I see that there's a frequent gap in the area of internal. It's usually missing or unaddressed for the most part, and because it's the most difficult part, is the heart transformation.
Yes, I couldn't agree more with Dr. Angelo. Sa amin naman po sa DICT Cybersecurity Bureau, we recognize the important role of parents. Hence, as early as 2018, we have been doing the digital parenting program. There was a missing component. We recognize that the missing component is the involvement of the greatest influencer sa buhay po ng isang kabataan, which is the parents. And that's what brought about the digital parenting program.
Dr. Angelo, how do you think family, school, and society can help the individual?
Well, these are usually the major institutions that would have to be sources, okay, of influence, especially sa area na, I have a couple of things na palagay ko, this institution of family, institution of school, institution of society, and also the church, okay, na pwede nilang bigyan ng attention whenever there would be an attempt or some program in terms of addressing this problem. One, dahil internal siya, something to do with life values. Okay, I think there's a need for reinforced or more enhanced program in this area of imparting appropriate and healthy life values. The second one has something to do with life skills. Okay, so yung mga life skills na yon would be coming out of the impartation of life values. So kasi kapag wala yung proper life values, mahirapan sa life skills na tinatawag. But of course, there's this problem of dealing with a society that is filled with unhealthy elements, okay? Because merong mga nagsasabi that we live in a sick society. A sick society filled with corruption, filled with addiction, filled with violence, filled with different types of spiritual, physical, emotional, and psychological abuse. So meron tayong mga problema. No? That's why all the more important that we deal with the internal, because even if society is sick, or even if there is corruption in society, there would be enough supplies within the person to be able to directly deal with problems like that outside of themselves.
Sa mga nagdaang episodes kung saan ay nakasama natin si Police Major Michael Vertudazo, he gave emphasis on the importance of involving the schools in the campaign against OSEC and other forms of cybercrimes against children. Major Michael, ano pong mga challenges ang nakikita ninyo sa pagpapalaganap ng kaalaman on cyber threats against children and the youth and online internet safety tips para sa mga kabataan?
Ang school po ay kabilang na ang elementary at high school ay napakalawak na institusyon na kung saan ang ating kapulisan ay lalo-lalo na yung mga WCPDs natin ay kinakailangan magdoble o triple ng kanilang mga awareness campaign lalo na sa mga hotspot areas at sa mga liblib na bayan para lamang ipalaganap ang kaalaman tungkol sa online sexual exploitation of children, online child safety ng ating mga kabataan. Sa totoo lang po, maliit lang na bahagi ng paaralan ang nabibigyan ng ganitong klaseng cyber awareness ng ating mga kapulisan. Sa pamamagitan ng kooperasyon ng DepEd, ito ay malaking tulong upang maipaabot ng DepEd at ng kapulisan sa buong mag-aaral ang dagdag na kaalaman tungkol sa online sexual exploitation of children and online child safety at maiwasan ang anumang uri ng cybercrimes na kung saan mga kabataan ang naging biktima. Ito din po ay magbibigay daan para upang madali naming matukoy ang mga kabataan na na-identify namin na mga biktima ng online sexual exploitation at upang agarang mabigyan ng karampatang evaluation at assessment ng ating mga social workers.
Yes, Major Michael. Napakaganda pong isipin na ang ating pong kapulisan ay talagang active din po sa pag-address ng challenge na ito ngayon sa ating lipunan.
Principal Christina, ma'am, nung pong guesting nyo ay nakwento nyo po ang proseso sa inyong paaralan in handling cyberbullying cases ayon sa RA 10627 at RA 10175. Nabanggit nyo din po noon ang ilang challenges in the actual implementation of certain procedures. Maaari po bang banggitin natin ang ilan dito at kung paano ito maaaring tugunan ng DepEd o ng pamahalaan?
Isa po sa mga naging problema natin ay yung how do we identify yung may mga ano po kasi may mga bata na who would not be using their name. they have what we call yung phishing or yung mga posers. So that's very difficult to address kasi hindi naman namin ma-identify kung sino. So basically, isang problema dyan yung technical kasi wala naman kaming know-how on how to verify kung sino yung gumawa nun. Madami tayong mga estudyante na nabubuli, hindi rin naman sila minsan nakakapag-report. Another would be yun pong ang ating mga guidance counselors are not really licensed. Kumbaga, guidance teacher lang ang meron tayo ngayon sa DepEd. In Caloocan, I think we have 3 or 4 licensed guidance counselors. Considering that we have 86 schools in Caloocan. Kailangan din ng intensive training for our guidance counselors, guidance teachers, kasi kulang na kulang po when it comes to cyberbullying. And yun pong dissemination campaign to our students and the parents. Since we have the new normal, we should be able to adapt and formulate and contextualize social media and online child safeguarding guidelines na dapat po maibigay natin sa ating mga magulang, ganoon na rin po sa ating mga guro at sa ating mga estudyante. Yung possibility na magkaroon kami ng pare-parehong disciplinary administrative action. Maganda po sana if we have one rule na pwede natin i-adopt as one para hindi po kami iba-iba when it comes to giving disciplinary action to our students. Yan po.
I can very well understand na mayroong problema sa technical, which is a developmental logistic. That's the external part, right? And that needs to be addressed. Pero ang pinakamahirap talaga rito would be the formation of the children. Remember, cyberbullying, cybercrime is just a symptom of a deeper problem. Cyberbullying, cybercrime is just a smaller focus within a larger picture. In other words, pwede kang hindi mag-focus sa cyberbullying. Mag-focus ka doon sa total life context of the children, life context of the parents, life context of the teachers and the guidance counselors and the other advisors na meron yung mga bata in order to address yung problem na to. Okay? So we may have the best of external developmental logistics. We may have the best resources, law enforcement, information campaign. We may have the best environment, but that can only go so far. The real, more permanent change would be coming from inside. And that can happen only when we have the right focus. Ang focus na yon is not on the symptom, but on the deeper problem of the character of the person. Ngayon, kulang na kulang tayo sa guidance counselors, kulang na kulang tayo sa mga teachers din. Importante na magkaroon ng focus din doon. Sa area ng training of the teachers, training of the guidance counselors, and also the parents. Diba? Kung yung mga parents, pwede ba natin lisensyahan yan para maging parents? Okay. Okay. Oo, di ba? Dapat yata kung may lisensya yung mga di ba? Doktor, mga abogado, mga pulis, dapat lisensyahan din yung mga magulang. Okay. Okay.
Napakaganda po ng sinabi niyo, Dr. Angelo. Actually, medyo na-amuse po ako sa licensure ng parents. So, you were actually discussing the root cause. And tunay nga po na this is just a symptom. It's not the main reason. Yung cyberbullying is just a symptom. And parang sa konteksto po ng pinagdadaanan nating pandemya ngayon, which is COVID, hindi po, unless you see that the fever really is caused by a deeper issue, which is the virus, i-address mo lang yung fever. I-address mo lang yung kung anong nakikita mong sintomas. But without recognizing that it's actually coming from a virus or kung ano man yung nagkakos ng fever na yun, you will not take the proper measures to address yung pong problema. No? So that was a very good insight, Dr. Angelo. Thank you for that po. Ngayon po, kasama din po natin si Mr. Ace Diloy from Stairway Foundation. Since we are now discussing yung mga child protection programs, Sir Ace, can you share with us DepEd's child protection policy that mandates schools to conduct child protection education? And also, I believe Stairways Foundation also has collaboration with DepEd to implement this.
You know, even before, even without a law, DepEd has mandated already schools to conduct child protection education. In fact, in Southeast Asia, for example, our Department of Education was one of the first to mandate schools to have child protection policies. And this was way back in 2012. So yun yung Department Order number 40, series of 2012, which is the DepEd Child Protection Policy. And aside from elaborating the prohibitions in schools in terms of school-based violence against students or learners, meron din doon section mandating schools to conduct child protection education, integrate this into the everyday sessions in schools or lessons in schools. Tapos in 2015, DepEd came out with DO number 55 or the anti-bullying implementing rules and regulation. 2007, we've been doing Stairway Foundation. We've been doing community and school-based awareness safety sessions in schools, no? And as a small organization, what we've realized doing those kinds of online safety sessions in schools and communities ay hindi siya ganun ka-sustainable. Kasi let's face it, if it's only one NGO or even if it's 10 NGOs, it's almost impossible to reach every school, every learner in the Philippines. And thus, our realization was that online safety awareness and education should really focus on institutionalization, meaning regardless of the organization working with the school, child protection education, whether it's for offline or online protection, should be embedded into the system. It should not be a one-off thing. And then also based on international research, the evidence really suggests na malaki syempre yung impact ng internet safety education if it's not taken as a standalone effort, but rather it's embedded into the curriculum, it's embedded into the lessons, and it's not discussed in isolation because many of the risky behaviors or many of the protective behaviors that we want to develop with children online are also mirrored in the offline protective behaviors of children. So dapat walang dichotomy sa discussion and dapat hindi siya standalone. Dapat it's embedded within the educational system. As an outsider from the institution pero working closely with DepEd, we've seen several gaps, several reasons why it's difficult to implement. Dalawa yung nakita namin na pinaka-main gaps. The first one is, syempre, it's specialized education and child protection and thus it needs learning resources. And unfortunately, during that time, 2012, 2015, walang learning resources on child protection and education in schools. And the second one is in terms of capacity of school personnel, yung teaching personnel, because this issue is so divorced from teachers' realities that they might be able to read the content of any learning resource, but to really fully understand the issue and build up the courage to discuss this because this is a sensitive issue takes specialized training. So dalawa, no? Learning resources and the need to capacitate teaching personnel on this issue. In 2015, we finally developed a series of lesson plans on cyber safety, which doesn't only discuss protective behavior online, but is anchored on building children's protective behavior holistically. And aside from the cyber safe lesson plans, we also develop learning videos. And all of these are geared towards building up children's protective behavior. Spearheaded by DepEd, early 2019, DepEd Central Office organized a series of regional training of trainers on cyber safety. making these trainers understand ano yung issue ng online safety, how is it connected to offline violence, how to use the learning resources, and how to conduct these in a classroom setting.
Napag-uusapan natin ang ilan sa mga challenges for parents and children and teachers and students to coexist in this digital age and prevent all forms of cyber threats and cyber crimes.
Indeed, very timely, relevant at napakahalaga. Lalo na ngayon na sa panahon ng pandemya, almost all of us are online, especially children, and nag-start na rin ang ating online classes. Magbabalik po kami, huwag po kayong aalis.
Do with instant messaging and texting and Facebooking and all this kind of thing. And I'm wondering what kind of effect does that have on their ability to have real relationships, not texting relationships, but real relationships? Have those skills to do that been affected because of the technology?
Dalawa po sa ating mga lawmakers ay napaunlakan din tayo dito sa CyberChat upang pakinggan ang ating mga mungkahi at kung paano ito maaaring maging bahagi sa pagbuo ng isang komprehensibong batas on anti-cyberbullying at makatulong din po kung paano mas mapapaigting ang pagpapatupad ng mga programa on child protection online.
Sabi nga po ni Dr. Jose Rizal, the youth is the hope of our future. CyberChat is very pleased to have with us the youngest ever woman lawmaker when she entered the House of Representatives in 2016. She is the principal author of the comprehensive Free Public Higher Education Bill filed in Congress in 2017, now the Free College Education Law being enjoyed by the youth. Very recently, she was named as one of the 5 outstanding young politicians of the world by the One Young World. It's a global youth leadership community. A cum laude graduate with a degree in Bachelor of Science in Hotel, Restaurant, and Institution Management from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, our Kabataan Party List Representative. Sasamahan po tayo today ni Congresswoman Sarah Jane Elago. Isang malaya at pinagpalang araw, Rep. Sara.
Thank you, Jen. Hello, Kat. Maraming salamat sa Cyber Guardians Philippines, isang makabayan na pagbati sa lahat ng mga taga-subaybay sa CyberChat.
Finally, makakasama din po natin sa CyberChat. She is currently the chairperson of the House Committee on Women and Gender Equality and vice chairperson of the House Committees on Welfare of Children and Natural Resources. We would also like to note that 3 out of the 20 bills she principally authored are now approved on third and final reading by the House of Representatives. These are defining electronic violence against women and children, creating the Department of Filipinos Overseas and Foreign Employment, and institutionalizing volunteerism as a strategy for national development and declaring December of every year as National Volunteer Month. She also graduated from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, with a bachelor's degree in psychology. She earned her master's degree and sociology degree from the Indiana University of Pennsylvania, from Bukidnon, Paglaom Party, Congresswoman Maria Lourdes Acosta Alba. A pleasant day to you, Congresswoman.
Hello, good afternoon, and our CyberChat hosts and guests, including my dear colleague, Kong Sarah. Thank you for your invitation to join you here in your episode of CyberChat. I am really learning a lot.
From what we have heard earlier, based on our guests' identified gaps and challenges in addressing the problems of cyberbullying and other forms of cyber threats, what are your thoughts about these issues and challenges, Congresswoman Alba?
As I said earlier, I'm really learning a lot. I see this as a learning session and a good briefing, especially for policymakers like us. So you've highlighted, your discussants have highlighted certain gaps and issues. And I have certainly taken note of this, and this will definitely inform and guide our legislative efforts in terms of revisiting related laws and amending and strengthening current laws related to cybercrime, especially cyberbullying. No? And listening to everyone, it also made me think, in terms of really the need for massive information, education, and campaign. I was thinking about what I can do as well in my district. And just as what we did with the issue, with terms of the issue of human trafficking, we went down to the barangay level in terms of information, education, and really disseminating the issue on human trafficking. And now I am thinking of also doing the same with the issue on cyberbullying, not to really engage our barangay capitans, our barangay health, barangay volunteers, and even down to the purok, because now we are organizing and mobilizing our purok leaders and officers. So we would like to also include the issue of cyberbullying, grassroots education, and really use our existing network and organization of barangay leaders and as well as purok leaders.
Ma'am, may we know po, what are the current bills under the House Committee on Children's Welfare currently pending that can help address some of the challenges mentioned by our guests earlier?
As far as I can remember, there are two bills that actually have not been heard. House resolution that was just passed 2 weeks ago by our chair of the Committee on the Welfare of Children, Chair Congresswoman Yeda Romualdez. She filed a House resolution to conduct an inquiry on the rising incidence of OSEC. And we have another bill that has been filed with the Committee on the Welfare of Children. That's HB 2203, an act prohibiting the spread of online viral challenge that is detrimental to the moral, mental, and physical development of children. That's, I think, the closest that we can get to in terms of addressing cyberbullying. And there's another related bill that has not been heard. I should urge our chair to really hear these bills. HB 2517, an act requiring internet service providers to create and maintain a child-friendly internet package for subscription of parents or guardians, free Wi-Fi providers, computer rental shops, and other subscribers, and providing penalties for violation thereof. We can see now that maybe Kong Sara and I can also file a comprehensive law on cyberbullying, which is really absent.
Punta naman tayo kay Congresswoman Elago. What are your thoughts po?
Maraming salamat muli, Cyber Guardians Philippines, for having this youth representation here. Nais ko rin munang batiin si Chairperson Malu sa kanyang mga insights para pagbutihin ang proteksyon ng mga bata online. Likewise, I have learned from the inputs and recommendations of our speakers that we have already accomplished so much, but more needs to be done to end cyberbullying and shut down online sexual abuse and exploitation and all other cyber threats and attacks. We, members of Congress, do play a major role in all these. First, this youth representation calls on the House of Representatives and the Senate to carefully study, identify, and address the gaps in laws for child protection online, cybersecurity, and privacy. A congressional oversight of these existing laws is timely and necessary at a time when study and work are done remotely through online and digital means. Habang iginigiit natin ngayon ang epektibo at pangmasang tugon sa pandemya, kailangan din para sa ligtas na balik trabaho at ligtas na balik eskwela ang ligtas na paggamit ng internet. Iba pa na usapin ang speed at reliability ng connectivity nito. Kailangan din maging malinaw ang obligations ng mga internet content at service providers at mga social media platforms sa proteksyon ng mga users nito. Second, focus and funding must also be provided for programs and services for victims of OSEC and cyber threats. Support must also be given for the hiring and proper compensation for guidance counselors and professionals and health workers to promote and protect not only the physical but also the mental and emotional health and well-being of the people, especially for children. Ang edukasyon, impormasyon at training tungkol sa mga usapin na ito ay hindi lang para sa mga bata at kabataan, kundi para rin sa kanilang mga magulang, guardians, guro at mga nakatatanda. Third, on cyberbullying, we hope and persevere to build a culture of trust, empowerment, dialogue, and cooperation instead of fear, hate, disinformation, and division. Mahalaga rito ang partisipasyon mismo ng mga bata at mga kabataan. Hindi lamang kami mga beneficiaries ng mga advokasya, kundi mga tagapaghubog rin nito. Ang mabilis na daloy ng impormasyon at pag-unlad ng teknolohiya ang naglalagay sa aming mga kabataan ngayon sa napakahalagang posisyon upang magbigay ng aming mga pananaw at palagay sa mga usapin na kami mismo ang nakararanas para sa epektibong pagtugon sa mga hamon sa ating lipunan ngayon. Fourth, on the need to look into the total life context as discussed by Dr. Angelo. This stresses the need to put children, youth's rights and welfare at the core of planning and crafting policies and financing to support and uplift the lives of Filipinos and ensure that no one is left behind in our effort to build back better.
So, Rep. Sara, follow-up question lang po. Kayo po ang kumakatawan ng mga kabataan, making up 37% millennials or those born from 1981 to 1996, and 26% Gen Z, Generation Z, or those born 1997 onwards. Or actually, it's 51% of total registered voters na ang karamihan ay talagang mga frequent at consistent users ng social media or online games or video streaming or browsing. Ang social media ay talaga namang malaking influence sa kanilang kultura, behavior at value system. Ano kaya ang kulang pa or pwedeng gawin ng batas at tamang implementasyon nito upang makatulong sa family, school at value system ng mga kabataan, lalo na ng mga teenagers at preteens?
Sa mga kulang o dapat isabatas, unang-una, sa tingin ko, kailangan talagang pag-aralan ang buong sitwasyon ng paggamit ng social media at internet dahil nangunguna dyan ang Pilipino sa buong mundo. Higit 10 oras on the average ang ginugugol ng mga Pilipino sa internet kada araw. Ginagamit ito sa komunikasyon, gayon din sa news, entertainment, pati na sa trabaho at negosyo. At kaakibat nito ang karapatan sa impormasyon. Pangalawa, kasalukuyan na mabilis na kumakalat o pinapakalat ang false information at matinding disinformation na nakakaapekto sa paghahanap ng katotohanan, pag-alam sa facts, at paggalang sa karapatan, dapat nating palakasin ang kampanya para sa media and information literacy. This representation filed a bill mandating an age and development appropriate media and information literacy classes and seminars for schools, workplaces, and communities. Mahalaga na nalalaman natin kung paano susuriin ang ating mga nababasa, napapanood, napapakinggan no, sa dami no, ng mga media platforms na available ngayon. Pangatlo, dahil nasa kalahati ng mga botante ang mga millennials at Gen Z, at ang laki nito ay kayang magpanalo ng mga susunod na opisyal, ganun na lang rin ang tungkulin namin na patuloy na mag-aral sa kalagayan ng sambayanan. Magkampanya para sa voters registration, voters education, at para sa malinis na halalan. Kailangan din panagutin ang mga arkitekto ng disinformation at huwag hayaang gamitin ang social media sa pagpapakalat ng maling impormasyon dahil napakahalaga ng nalalaman ng bawat isa sa atin sa pagkakatuparan ng karapatan sa pagboto at paglahok sa eleksyon. Pang-apat, bilang isa sa mga prinsipal na nag-akda ng Free Public Internet Access Law, kailangan ng pagbabantay sa implementasyon nito lalo na sa pagpapatupad ng Child Online Safeguarding Policy na minandato no, sa loob ng batas na ito. Habang tinataguyod natin ang karapatan ng mga bata at ng bawat isa sa atin.
Thank you for sharing your insights, Rep. Elago. And thank you also to Chair Malu Acosta Alba. CAs, having been involved in crafting so many studies, training programs, and researches on child protection focused on online sexual exploitation and cyberbullying, can you cite some observations of gaps that may possibly be addressed through creation of laws or improvement in the current laws and policies that we have? Sir Ace?
Thanks, Attorney Kat. Good afternoon po, Congressperson Malu, Congressperson Sara, our allies in child protection in the House of Representatives. Mabuhay po kayong dalawa. In terms of cyberbullying, there are certain policy gaps no, na kailangan talaga i-address with any bill to be filed in Congress. So first one, yung definition of itself of cyberbullying sa ating present law. If you study the law, cyberbullying in the law is only defined between child to child. However, in the present context, there are many variations of this. Cyberbullying can be committed in the context of adult to child, or even sometimes child to adult. So there has to be an updating on how do we define cyberbullying in the context of the law in the Philippines. This, number two, it's also limited to learners. The definition is cyberbullying happens, or bullying in general happens in the school setting. So that's one limitation in terms of how to respond to it, because if it happens outside of the school, the only intervention point can be in the context of sino yung party na nasa eskwelahan. Pero paano kung yung perpetrator ay tagalabas ng paaralan? Paano kung yung perpetrator ay adult? So the school is tied up in terms of how to address it concretely kasi andun lang yung protocol based on the law and its IRR. Tapos we also need to look at expanding the definition of the acts which constitute cyberbullying kasi ang daming nuances right now of how cyberbullying happens. How do you craft a law which doesn't need updating yearly? How do you future-proof a law? So the wordings are very important on how to define any law which involves technology and the internet. The present response protocols elaborated for schools is limited when the threat is cyberbullying, because the protocols elaborated in the law and the IRR are really feasible if it's offline bullying. Okay, right now it's cyberbullying, and it's very difficult for schools to address it. And last but not the least, in terms of cyberbullying, in relation to number one, we have to really expand the definition of bullying and cyberbullying also in terms of the response actors. Kasi presently, the response actors are limited to the schools and then referral to the social welfare sector or law enforcement if warranted. Pero medyo absent yung pagtugon ng community actors like the Barangay Council for the Protection of Children. The parents are only there for mediation purposes. And also, although member naman ang student representative doon sa child protection committees in the school, pero paano nga kung ang case involves children who are out of school, or out of school youth. So we have to take into account these complexities. So 2015, it's very old in terms of internet age, yung pagkakarap ng law na yon.
Ano pong mga masasuggest nyo na mga paraan para ma-empower ang mga magulang na matulungan nila ang kanilang mga anak kapag mayroon silang mga problema na may kinalaman sa cyberbullying?
Building a trusting relationship with between parents and children, for children to open up to parents, and then parents will eventually try to find solutions. If it's not within their power, they will have to find help in order to address the problem. And if only there is trusting relationship between parents and children, mas malaki yung possibility that children will open up even in the first sign of danger or early warning already, para mas proactively ma-address yung problem. Concretely, I would recommend that parents try to talk to their children about online activities and try to understand it from the point of view of the children. And if they don't fully understand, try to ask their children to teach them how they go about their online lives para ma-build yung trusting relationship. We also have to look into yung instances wherein children themselves are perpetrators of violence. Kasi diba, it goes both ways. There are some children who do violence online. And it also boils back to role modeling. If a child experiences violence at home, whether it be corporal punishment in whatever form, tendencies are this is the value system that the child grows into, that problems can only be addressed via violence. And this reflects back into the other spheres of the child's life, whether it's at school or online.
So isa yan sa mga major keys kung paano ma-address yung cyberbullying at saka yung problema ng cyberbullied among our youth and our children. We go to the parents. Okay, we go to the parents, their psychological and spiritual empowerment, so that they could be better parents for their children. Mahirap na trabaho yan. Mahirap na trabaho. That's why the church right now is also doing its part.
This has truly been one very engaging episode, and we would like to thank all our guests today. Maraming pong salamat for giving us, the Cyber Guardians PH and CyberChat, the opportunity to hear your views and comments on the present cyber threats against children and the youth.
We learn about values and at the same time unlearn the things that would really affect others, and the establishment of strong emotional connection among the students, the parents, and that of the teacher, and of course of the administration to stop cyberbullying.
Muli po, nagpapasalamat po ako sa Cyber Guardians PH for organizing this series of cyber chats. Napaka-importante po yung mga ganitong inisyatibo kasi kailangan i-unpack yung mga usapin about child online protection. For the viewers, I hope that you've learned practical tips if you encounter any child online protection concerns. So again, maraming salamat po and congratulations again to the Cyber Guardians PH and your members.
Cyberbullying is more essentially an internal issue. Okay? It's psychological, emotional, and spiritual, more than anything else. You get real recovery, even a more permanent one, sustained recovery by having those issues internally addressed. Okay? So prevention, that's better than cure, right? So if we could put in place certain significant programs to concentrate on this area, then we would be doing a lot of progress addressing this problem. Prevention, and then of course the cure part, it also involves a lot of internal curative component, okay? So that's how I see it, and I hope aside from the laws we have, information we're disseminating, and all the other external protocols we're putting in place, I hope there would be enough focus in that area as well, okay? Because that's where real recovery lies. Thank you.
In behalf of the Philippine National Police Women and Children Protection Center, led by our very own Police Brigadier General Alessandro C. Abella, I would like to extend our gratitude to the entire team of CyberChat for inviting us here again. And I hope na yung mga na-share ko ng mga answers sa mga questions ay nakatulong dun sa mga nagtatanong. And rest assured that the Women and Children Protection Center are always here to cater concerns involving online child sexual abuse and exploitation of children. Thank you.
Bilang mga pag-asa ng bayan, kaisa po ang mga kabataan ng Cyber Guardians Philippines at lahat ng mga nagsusulong ng advokasya laban sa cyberbullying at pagwawakas ng online sexual exploitation at iba pang cyber attacks. Walang lugar ang mga cyber attacks sa ating lipunan. Kaakibat ng pagtingin sa mga batas, kailangan nating alamin at tugunan ang mga ugat na dahilan kung bakit nagkakaroon ng ganitong diskriminasyon, pagsasamantala at inhustisya sa ating bayan. Palakasin natin ang sistema ng katarungan, pananagutan at mabuting pamamahala sa ating bayan para sa mas magandang kinabukasan. Muli, nagpapasalamat kami sa buong CyberChat team. Napakarami po naming natutunan at maibabahagi pa sa aming mga kapwa-kabataan mula sa talakayan na ito. Asahan niyo po ang mas mahigpit nating pagtutulungan. Mabuhay po kayo.
Thank you, Attorney Ka, and to the Cyber Guardians Philippines and CyberChat for this opportunity to engage with you guys, yung mga advocates of to prevent cyberbullying. It has been a very fruitful and instructive afternoon session among us, and we look forward to engaging with you more as we start our journey of developing a comprehensive law on cyberbullying, which is much needed. No, all the more na highlight talaga sa forum natin this afternoon ang need to really update our approach, policies, and laws in order to address this problem of cyberbullying, which our forum today, of which the magnitude and gravity of such a problem was really highlighted in our forum this afternoon. So as parents, students, teachers, and communities, government officials, advocates, let us all unite and take steps that will really help prevent cyberbullying and create a healthy, safe online environment in which everybody can really grow positively, as I said earlier, I look forward to engaging more with Cyber PH, Cyber Guardians PH, and Cyber Chat to be a guest again, maybe. Thank you, everyone, and see you more. Be safe, and God bless us all.
Huwag po kayong aalis. Magbabalik pa po ang Cyber Chat. How did you find today's episode, Jen?
This has truly been an informative discussion, not only for the viewers, but for me as well as a policymaker. The inputs provided by our esteemed guests would surely be beneficial in the crafting of policies for child online protection. If I may just highlight the points raised on the role of parents. Everyone agrees that parents play a crucial role in the fight against cyberbullying and how complex that role is. While the role of the government, the teachers, guidance counselors are important, We cannot deny the fact that the greatest influence in a child's life is that of the parent. After all, from the moment a child wakes up until he sleeps, it's the parent who is present in the life of a child. And I would always go back to what I said when I guested for the first episode of CyberChat on cyberbullying. Us parents need to work on building our relationship with our children because the closer the relationship, the greater the influence.
Join us again next week for our season ender of CyberChat with our very, very special guests. Let us continue our journey and looking for solutions to OSEC and other cybercrimes affecting our children and the youth. Be a cyber guardian.